Okay, today we're going to go over the Algebra 1 Unit 11 review. So number 1 is asking, it says using the graph of f of x equals 2x squared plus 4x minus 6, label and identify. So the equation has already been graphed for us, and all we have to do is pick out these things. So the first one is the y-intercept. Of course, that's where it's going to cross the y-axis, so I just go down. Here's my point. So the coordinate for that point would be 0 and then -6. The next thing is asking me for the solutions, the roots, the zeros. Remember, you guys, that all just means x-intercepts. Okay, so let's go and on the x-axis, I just need to find where it's crossing the x. So it crosses here and here. So this first one is a -1, 2, 3. So we have -3, 0. And the next one is a +1, 0. Remember, we could write that as a set of numbers with my braces. Either way would be fine. Okay, the next one is asking for the axis of symmetry, but before we do the axis of symmetry, let's go ahead and do the vertex. Remember, the vertex is either the highest or lowest point, so for this one, it's going to be my lowest point, and that would be a -1, and then this is 5, 6, 7, 8, -8. So -1, comma, -8. There's my vertex. And let's go ahead and answer this. It says, is the vertex a maximum or a minimum? Well, remember, it's the lowest point, so that means it's going to be a minimum. And now let's go and do the axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry is just simply that invisible line, basically, that cuts our parabola in half into 2 equal sections, and it goes right through our vertex. And it's always a vertical line, and so that means it's always going to be an x equals, and it is the x value of my vertex, so x equals a -1. Okay? Okay, the next part is asking us to identify all of the transformations from the parent function y equals x squared for each of the following. So I'm going to identify each thing and talk about what it means. So the first thing on this is going to be the negative sign. So I'm going to say negative. And that negative sign causes it to have a reflection across the x-axis. Okay. The next one would be this number right here. And so the 2 is causing it to have a vertical stretch, which means it makes it skinnier. The 3 right here, that is going to cause it to have a horizontal shift because it's inside the parentheses. So it's a horizontal shift, and it's going to be to the right 3 units. And then the number out here that's after the parentheses, that -1, that is going to be a vertical shift. And that is going to go down 1 unit. Okay? All right, let's try the next one. Let's start with B. I don't have a negative sign, so I'm not having a reflection, so I just am going to deal with the 1/2. So the 1/2 is going to cause this to have a vertical compression. And remember, the vertical compression means it's getting wider. Okay, the number inside the parentheses, it is a +4. That is going to have it, create it to move horizontally, so it's going to be a horizontal shift. And that is going to be horizontal shift to the left. Sorry, left 4 units. And then the number that's outside of the parentheses, that +5, that is going to cause it to have a vertical shift. And we're going to go up 5 units. All right, the next section, we need to solve the quadratic equation by factoring. And remember, solving just means we are going to find the x-intercepts. So I need to get all of this set equal to 0. So I'm going to move this over by subtracting. And that will give me a 2x squared minus 3x. This is gone and it equals 20. And now I need to move the 20 over also by subtracting. So I'll have 20x squared minus 2x squared minus 3x minus 20 equals 0. And once I have it set equal to 0, then I can start factoring. So right here I have a trinomial with a lead coefficient. So remember, we're going to bring the first term down and I'm going to bring my last term down. And then I multiply these two. And then, oh, sorry. Hang on just a second. Let me try that again. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to multiply the 2 and the 20 and I get 40. And that number is what I'm going to factor. So I have 1 times 40, 2 times 20, 4 times 10, 5 times 8, I believe that's all. And then I will add and subtract each pair of factors. There we go. And I'm looking for my middle term of 3. And so I see it right here. That means I'm going to use the 5 and the 8. And the 3 is in the minus column. That means my signs are going to be different. So what we're going to do is turn this 3x into 2 terms using these numbers. So I will have a 5x and I will have an 8x. And my signs are different. This sign right here goes with the larger of the two. So the 8 gets the negative and the 5 gets the positive. And now that I have it into 4 terms, I should be able to group to factor. So I'm going to group the first 2. Did I say 5 terms? In 4 terms? Anyway. Okay, so I'm going to group the first 2 and then group the second 2. And then I will factor out what's common here. So in the first set of parentheses, I can factor out an x. And that will leave me 2x plus 5. In the second set, I can factor out a 4. And because this is a negative, it'll be a negative 4. And that will leave me 2x plus 5. And now what the parentheses is the same. So I pull out what I factored, the x minus the 4, I'm going to put in one parentheses. The repeating parentheses I write one time. And now comes the new part, because all of that was old. The new part is to set each parentheses equal to 0 and solve for the x. So my first step then on this one is I need to get rid of my 4, and I'm going to do that by adding. And then that means I have x equals 4. So there's my first x value. The second one, I will subtract 5 from both sides first. And that leaves me, that leaves me 2x equals a negative 5. And then I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides. And so I'm going to write it up here. That leaves me x equals a negative 5 over 2. And that would be my second x value. Okay, let's try the next one, number 4. It is already set equal to 0, so I don't have to worry about that. I just have to factor. And this time I have a trinomial with no lead. So that means I can immediately put my 2 sets of parentheses. And then I factor this last term. So I have 50. So I have 1 times 50, 2 times 25, and 5 times 10. And then I will add and subtract. and add and subtract, and add and subtract. Okay, I am again looking for my middle term. I found it right here. So I'll be using 5 and 10, and then again my signs are going to be different. So I'll put my 5 and my 10 in here, and this sign will go with the larger of the two, so the 10 is the negative and the 5 gets the positive. Okay, now that I have this factored, again, all I have to do is take each set of parentheses, set it equal to 0, and then solve for the x. So on this one, I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. And that will leave me x equals a negative 5. So there's my first x value. On the second one, I'm going to add 10 to both sides. And that will leave me x equals a positive 10, my other x value. Okay, on the next two, it just says solve by graphing, so that means we can use our calculators. Again, I need to have it set equal to 0. So I'm going to get rid of the 1 on this one, and I will have x minus 2 squared minus 1 equals 0. I'll go ahead and do this one, and then we can just go straight to the calculator to do both of these problems. So I have to write it in standard form. So x squared, and then my positive 2x, and then my positive 5, and that will equal 0. Okay, let's go to the calculator. Okay, so I've written the two equations that we're going to put in right up here. So I'm going to press menu, and I want to add a graph. So my first equation for number 5 is going to be x minus 2, and I need to square that, and then minus 1. So I can hit enter, and then all I have to do is identify what my x-intercepts are. So I can see right here, here's one and here's the other. So this one looks at positive 1, and this one is at a positive 3. So that means I can have 1, 3 in my braces, and that could be my answer. All right, let's try the next one then. If I go to a new page and add a calculator again, go ahead and get rid of those dots. Okay. So again, I'm going to type my equation in. I have x squared. Sorry, hang on a second. Okay, I have x squared plus 2x plus 5, and hit enter. And it doesn't look like it is touching my x-axis anywhere. So that means on number 6, I'm going to have no solution.